Builders, backstories, breakthroughs. This is The Journey in Conversation.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of The Journey in Conversation. I am absolutely thrilled to have what I can only describe as the perfect guest with me today. If you're thinking about writing a book, creating a cultural product, doing something like that of your own volition, Phil Bean, welcome to the show, man. How are you?
Hey, I'm great, Paul. Thank you so much for having me. Super pumped, excited to chat with you. And I'm doing great, man. I'm great. It's summer, loving life. Couldn't be better.
Glad to hear it. I'm glad you're here, man. And Phil and I have been, for the listeners at home, Phil and I have been friends for a long time. We know each other quite well. And what Phil has chosen to do with his positioning, if you go on his website, he describes himself as author, father, creator of things. And from a positioning standpoint, absolutely brilliant. You can't get clearer, more succinct than that. It describes what he does, but it's also not limiting. So Phil, well done. Kudos to that.
Yeah, thanks, man. It's funny because coming up with that site, I honestly created it so that I could sell my book. Really, let's be honest. But then I was like, you know what? Let's make it more than that because I'm more than just an author. And so that's kind of the way it made sense to me. I like to create. I like to put it out into the world and see what happens. So yeah, it works. So thanks for noticing that.
Let's start with you. Can you give the folks at home a bit of your background? Your origin story, where you came from, what you're doing. You are the Marvel superhero now. Tell us what you're all about.
Sure. Okay. No, fair question. So I won't take you all the way back to the beginning, but I'll start with maybe how I ended up where I am today, which is through my post-secondary education. Funny enough, I had no dreams of becoming an author or a writer whatsoever. But I was in the culinary world, which again is a creative space for any of those chefs out there who love to play in the kitchen. So I pursued that post-secondary. Also, for anyone who is in the industry, you probably know that is a tough lifestyle. You got to be a glutton for punishment. It's awesome. I love it. But I had to hang up the apron because, well, family and just personal well-being. So that's kind of where my professional life started. And then I took a pivot into logistics of all things. And if you actually think about, you can draw a line between logistics, be it a warehouse, any part in the supply chain to a restaurant. You've got front of house, which is your customer care team, your whoever's doing order placement, your sales team, and then you've got back of house, which is your warehouse and the people picking the orders and stuff. So very similar to a kitchen environment. So I think that's why I was drawn to that. And then I guess I've been living that life for past 20 years, I guess. But that wasn't filling my cup at the same time on the creative side. And so I kicked around this idea. I discovered blogs back in 2004, and I was like, hey man, this is kind of cool. Gave me an output to be writing whatever I want. Just put it out there, have an adventure, write about it. Go to a cool restaurant, write about it. Catch a cool band, write about it. So blogging was this way to feed or scratch the itch that I had. I've been blogging for, like I say, 20 years. And then somewhere along the way, I was like, man, I could actually take this. I love writing. It's a way to flex that creative side of me. Why don't I write a book? Nothing was stopping me from writing a book. It's words on paper. So I did it. And then again, maybe we'll get into some of those details. I won't do it now, but that's just kind of how it happened. I had an idea, went for it. Didn't see any roadblocks in my way except for myself. So removed that and just put pen to paper.
And that's such an interesting thing to surface, right? When you think about creating cultural products, like a book or like a blog, or anything that's really based on your own kind of knowledge, your own kind of creativity. So many people get stuck before they really start in earnest. And what I've really kind of come to realize is that 95% of the time, you get yourself kind of stuck for one reason or another or another or another. There are 1,000 reasons to not start something. What I'm gonna kind of put you on the spot here, but when you were kind of starting that journey, and you were feeling at the very start, like maybe stuck or a little bit, like how did you convince yourself to not be stuck? How did you move forward?
Yeah, because you're right. You can find a million reasons to not do something. Um, whether it's you don't know the right resource. I've got a poor internet connection. Like you could dig into any reason you wanted to not do it. So a couple of things. One, if I say something out loud to somebody else, it holds me accountable. And that's just something I've done all my life. So I remember saying to somebody, is actually when I was in China traveling around, and I was like, I wanted a way to document what I was doing. So I said it out loud to someone. I said, I'm going to start a blog. I had no idea what that meant. I didn't know how to do it, but I said it to someone. And that suddenly made it accountable, because the next time I see that person, they may ask me, hey, man, how's the blog going? And I don't want to say, ooh, I didn't do it. So that's just like a psychological trick that I've always played on myself throughout my life. And then the other thing is like that aside, like do it for you. If you're not doing it for you, then you probably may not want to do it to begin with. And so the writing piece is honestly a way for me to not just put my thoughts into the world for others to read, but more so it then like creates this purposeful reflection for me. If I start writing about an experience I had, it forces me to appreciate that experience even more. It heightens it. I suddenly like, again, the restaurant. I go to a cool restaurant, I write about it, I'm like tasting those flavors again. I'm reliving it in a way. And so that really is like, if you're not doing it for yourself, then why bother, I guess. Not to sound negative about it, but I think you got to start there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we only have each of us human beings, until like the AI singularity comes and we can upload ourselves into a
Yeah.
robot and live forever, whatever. We've only got so much time on the earth, and we've got to spend it to some extent in service to the things that interest us and we find fulfilling. Or else, like you say, it's not going to continue to travel and go forward with the kind of gusto that you might otherwise want. I'd forgotten that you spent time in China. You were teaching English as a second language in China for a
Yep.
while, and
Yep.
and if I remember, it was just that was just kind of a means to an end, so you could kind of travel around China and experience like the culinary side of the country and some of the culture, and soak up like a little bit of the language. Tell us about that. So you're in China, and you
Yep.
decide like, I want to create a blog about my travels in China.
Yep.
Tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah. So China as a whole was self-discovery portion of my life. Post-secondary was done. Didn't know where I wanted to be, what I wanted to do. So yeah, man, it was like, let's go travel the world a little bit. So I went solo, very much by design. I wanted to immerse myself into a culture, not be like bring my own culture and like into this like little bubble with me. So yeah, I was there for about a year. And the idea of the blog came about because I was having all these experiences, and I was like, man, like I'm not going to remember all these things a year from now. But also like family back home is harder to make phone calls. It was, yeah, there was emails and stuff, but I wanted something that could serve as myself as like a journal, but also inform those back home what I was experiencing. And so I tried to like finding my voice on that blog was interesting. It was my first exercise in real writing, and so again, I did it for myself. It's like, what would be entertaining to me? And so I tried each time to like tell it like a story. It wasn't just today I did this at this time in this location. No, I made each entry its own unique character-driven story. It made it kind of fun. And yeah, man, it was super cool. Such an experience. And yeah, like again, thanks to parts of the blog, but also pictures and stuff like that. Like I'll never forget it. It's so cool. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's really kind of, I guess, a part of your origin story as a
Yeah,
Marvel
yeah,
hero.
yeah, for sure. For sure. And again, it was great because then like my family friends, everyone back home was able to, if they wanted to, follow along with whatever I was doing. Um, and then it gave them probably more for my family than anybody else, but some peace of mind that I was okay, you know, um, and having fun. So yeah, it was really cool.
And what was so this is 2004, right?
Yep.
What was let's talk about the actual blog part. Like, so you're in China, you start creating this blog. I'm sure that there were some challenges that came along with that, because 2004 China is very, very different from 2025 China in terms of internet connection, bandwidth, technology. Like, the internet in China was very different back then. Blogging software was very different back then than it was today. What were some of the things that you ran into, just from like a functional production standpoint, that really tripped you up, and how did you deal with them? How'd you get around them?
Yeah. So I'm going to say, for one thing, being in China, I had to be very careful with what I posted. So I'm just going to leave that part over
Mm.
here. The actual like functional side of things, uh, writing was actually pretty easy. The tools were available. I think it was called Blogspot, or Blogger was the sort of service provider. Easy to use. That was fine. You write your entry. The problem came actually trying to post that thing, especially if you had any type of media content, photos or anything like that to kind of supplement it. And the thing would spin and spin and spin. It just took patience. It would fail so many times. Just had to go back and do it. I can't even tell you how many times I had to rewrite entries because, I write it out, I forgot to save it, and then I post it, and then just the whole thing fails, and I can't hit a back button to get my content back. It's just gone. So I learned that lesson, or I failed to learn that lesson too many times. But again, what I would say is, through that failure, I was like, okay, so the one, learn to hit the save button, fine. But the other piece was like, I am, I know that I have a followership, if you will, people that are paying attention. So I could just say, man, that thing didn't post, I'm going to move on. But no, I'm accountable suddenly to this audience. And so I encouraged myself to rewrite it. And it'd be slightly different, content overall, but it held me accountable. So through those failures, like, okay, well, here we go again. Um, and I probably wrote it stronger the second time, if I'm being honest. Um,
Yeah.
Things that, I was like, maybe I should rephrase it this way, or I remember it a different way. And so, but yeah, frustrating times. The internet was not stable in any way, but yeah,
So thinking about that accountability, you
yeah,
say one of the things that really pushed you to rewrite those posts when you ran into the technical problems was knowing that you had an audience of varying degrees back home, and you were accountable to them. Would you say that you felt more of a sense of accountability to the people you were close with, or more of a sense of accountability to the complete strangers that were subscribed, that you didn't personally know, but you knew that they were there? Was one more motivating than the other?
that's a very, yeah, good for you for asking that question, because it was the strangers. I don't know how you got to that, but yeah, it was the strangers, man. Like, again, I could write an email to my family. That can solve for that. But the strangers, I'm like, I don't know who these people are. They don't know me. All they know is I'm like potentially providing them some content or inspiration or something. So yeah, it's funny you asked that, because it was and even today, even when I write blogs today, I know the people that are, whether I work with them or I see them on the day to day, and they're like, hey man, nice entry. I know those people, and it's great. And I love hearing that feedback, but I'm more curious about those that I don't know, if that makes any sense. Not that, like, to be clear, not that I do any of this because I want to have validation through likes and shares and whatnot. Again, I do it for me. That's number one. But I am curious. I'm curious, like, the week that I skip doing an entry, like, who notices that? And I don't know if I feel like I owe them something. That's probably not the right way to phrase it, but I do think about it for sure.
Yeah. And for anybody who's at home who's like, oh man, I want to subscribe to Phil's blog, don't worry, we're going to put this in the show notes, so you don't have to like tab out and go like on a mad hunt for Phil right now. You can find Phil, I promise you. Phil, if you could, open up your time travel smartphone and or well, didn't have those in China in 2004. If you could open up your time travel box and say to 2004 Phil, who's in China, something, if you could tell them something that you've learned in the time between then and now, what would it be?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just keep practicing. I think I put a lot of pressure on myself back then to have the post be perfect. So I would get caught up in things like editing and things like rereading it over and over, wanting to post the quote unquote perfect entry. The truth is there isn't such a thing. And your experience, whatever your day might have been that you're journaling about, blogging about, writing about, like that's an honest experience, and it can be unedited. It can be, it can have some grammatical errors. I'm not saying you necessarily want to publish books that way, but like, I don't know, we're talking about sharing your own personal experience, and we're imperfect people. So, um, but that's the part that I would say to practice is that confidence. Yeah, practice the writing, practice, um, finding your voice, practice different styles, whatever you think you might learn in like a creative workshop at like some university, like, yeah, those are all good tools, but practice the confidence. Um, Still work on that today, but that
Yeah.
definitely I would
Yeah.
encourage.
Yeah, we all do, right? Like the thing that I kind of am always drawn back to is perfection is in the eye of the beholder. And when it comes to creating products, like I'm a bit of a perfectionist. Like I'll go back and reread something 12 times, change it back. Like that's just kind of how I'm wired. But I always remember, perfection is in the eye of the beholder. Like the things that you notice and that drive you a little bit nuts to somebody else, they can be like a charming oddity. They can be a part of a stylistic expression that they just really like gravitate to. So I think the one thing I would add to what you're saying is don't beat yourself up about perceived imperfection, because
Yeah,
perceived imperfection is not necessarily real imperfection, right?
that's right. And I think in our household, just in general, we kind of go by the 80% rule. Uh, and I kind of practice that in life. Like 80%, man, that's pretty good. It's pretty strong passing grade. And so, of course, there are situations where you need greater than that. But if I go for 100%, my interpretation of 100%, like you said, in the eye of the beholder, I'm never going to get it done ever. Like it's just going to sit there. And so, at some point, and I think maybe that's the confidence in one, putting it out there. You're putting creative work out for other people to judge. That's intimidating. So the confidence there, the confidence in knowing that like failure is learning, falling is learning, that you know I'm not going to put out this perfect piece of whatever that's going to be appealing to everybody, but hey man, like at least I got it out there, and I can be proud of it. I don't put it out at a point where I'm not proud. I'm still proud. um yeah, I don't know. I
Yeah.
might get looks for that 80% thing, but I don't know. That's how we feel around here.
And what's the other saying? Perfect is the enemy of finished, or something like that. That
Yeah,
also kind of seems to apply.
yeah, yep, for sure. And yeah, I guess the other one, like, is practice doesn't make perfect. Practice makes progress, and so um, strive by that as well.
Let's talk about motivation for a little bit.
Sure.
So you've spent quite a bit of time working on your craft, honing it, and as you have kind of called out to the folks at home, that's as much about building confidence in yourself as it is about creating a better thing, a better product, a better outcome. But I am sure that when you're writing today, there are still things that come up that are, oh, geez, that wasn't great, or there are things that come up that make it hard for you to advance. um, what do you do when you get into kind of those sticky little mud pits, and you're like, oh man, this is tough. How do I move forward? Like, what's your formula, your strategy for getting through that?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, if you want to call it writer's block, a creative block, um, finding inspiration. What am I going to write about this week? Yeah, there's not an endless pool, and there's not always the energy there. I try to post every Sunday morning. Sometimes, frankly, man, I don't feel like it. Um, like I'm tired, had a long week, an uninspiring week, a challenging week, whatever. You name it. Like things happen. We're people. So sometimes, yeah, I forgive myself and just say, you know what, I'm not going to write this week. And so I think it's just calling it out and owning it, making that decision rather than feeling and harboring on some guilt about it. So that's it. That's one way. The other way, honestly, is I might be like, okay, what am I going to write about today? I honestly just I want to, I just can't think of it. I'll ask people around me. Um, I'll turn to my kids, be like, hey guys, what do you want me to write about? And they'll come up with something silly, and I'll write about it. Or I'll ask, my parents, be like, hey, what do you guys want to read about? And they'll give me an idea, and I'll write about it. Sometimes I just need that like spark of inspiration. So I'd say I'm typically motivated to write. Uh, Again, the few times I'm not. But when I get stuck or in those muddy areas, I'll look to other people. I mean, man, we are a social being. Like, tap into that resource because there's inspiration all around you, and people can give you some pretty creative ideas too, especially kids. Kids, man, kids will give it to you. It's pretty cool.
I was, I didn't want to like jump in and interrupt you while you were kind of midstream there, but as soon as you said I turned to my kids, in my brain it just popped in, and I was like, man, Kid GPT is a great resource. Like, wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah, for sure. And you know what? Like, yeah, the whole AI thing, like that's interesting. Uh, I don't use it for creative endeavors, but um, it's a tool, I will say, that could be used, I suppose. But yeah, I prefer to turn to people or photos. Honestly, I'll look through my photo album and be like, hey, what did I do this week? Something pops up. I'm like, I remember doing that. Like, let's tap into that experience.
That's a good tip. Um, let's take a bit of a turn, and let's talk about the big hairy dirty disgusting elephant in the corner of the room. AI, like writers are in particular, that group of people is just like at loggerheads about AI. And the argument that AI can replace the cultural value that writers kind of bring to the world is one that we should all be extremely concerned about, and very thoughtful of. But at the same time, there are so many opportunities for writers to improve their craft, or improve their ability to produce good work, to produce like a highly valued cultural product. Where do you sit on that spectrum? Like you said, you don't use AI in your own creative work, and I'm the same. When I sit down to write something, like I write it myself. I use AI for a lot of other stuff. But where do you sit as a writer on that issue?
Yeah, it's a tough one. So I use AI in my workday, like start to finish. I'm using it for 8 hours a day. Um, because it's a tool. And so if I think about it being a tool in the way that I do my writing, uh, it can honestly come in handy. I have used it. I don't rely on it or don't use it to say generate the content for me. But think about the same way you would use a thesaurus. You're trying to come up with a different way of saying something. I'll use a thesaurus. Well, I can use something like ChatGPT in the same way. Be like, hey, ChatGPT, here's what I'm trying to say, but I can't find the word to use it. So what's your feedback? What's your thought? And so it's not generating the final sentence structure. It's not generating the topic. It's not writing in my voice, but it's a tool to kind of help nudge me where I know I want to get to. I just didn't know how to get there. And that's, again, I think it's a slippery slope because, you could suddenly, yeah, I mean, AI, it's not going anywhere, man. It's getting stronger and stronger. Is it a concern? For me personally, no, but I can see how it is for many. I like example. I don't want somebody writing a story in my voice, right? Someone loads my book into some open AI, says, "Hey, rewrite this, but make it by Jim Smith or something." That part freaks me out. But as a tool, I think it's a benefit, or could be a benefit.
And this is the part, everybody at home, we've been talking about Phil's kind of writing through the lens of blogging and personal experience and everything. But he actually is a published author too. I have a copy of his book right here. And if you want to take a look at the book, we are going to put that in the show notes as well. So again, don't tab out and go on like a mad hunt to find Phil. It's all good. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that experience, though? You published this book a couple of years ago, I think,
Yep.
at this point, and you've got a second book that's in the works, that's percolating. Tell us a little bit about that transition that you went through from a blogger to an author, like a published author, because though it seems like they're the same, I would imagine that they're very, very different things, and they come with different sets of challenges.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, blogging is this free open world space. Put whatever you want out there. Like I said, you're not so concerned about editing and whatnot. It's just it's my thoughts out there. Writing a book is very different because there is an editing process, there is a publication process, there are rules, quote unquote, to be followed in order to get your material onto a shelf. So it's a different experience entirely. Getting the words on the paper, that's the easy part. Um, I mean, yeah, you obviously are going to go back and forth with what those words say and go through the editing process, but that wasn't the challenge for me. The challenge for me was then to say, cool, I have words on paper. Now what do I do? Because it's a business, man. Like it's trying to figure out, like, okay, do I go through a world of self-publication, assisted publication? Do I find a publisher? I learned a lot of lessons along the way. Not the least of which being, I wrote a book that rhymes because I love Dr. Zeus. Man, I love Dr. Zeus like so much. Find like a lot of the stories inspirational. They're fun. It's great. So anyway, rhyming stories have always been a part of my life. My book rhymes. Well, guess what? Publishing a rhyming children's book isn't going to happen. It can't be translated into multiple languages. So hey, I didn't realize that until after I had written it. There's a lot of rhyming books out there that, quite frankly, aren't very good. They don't follow the same, rhythmic pattern. They're kind of put together haphazardly, if you will. I throw no shade at anyone giving it a shot, but that's just the reality. And it puts a lot more, like, public publishers, they don't even want to see it. If it's a rhyming book, it clearly states we do not accept rhyming publications. So what do I do with that? Then there's the whole, in the world of publishing, if your book is published through a publisher, you are one in a million, literally. Like, they receive so many submissions. And so to even like get yourself in front of someone who's interested is hard. But then there's also, every publishing house has got strict guidelines about what they will accept and when they will accept them. So even now, when I go on to the publishing houses, they're looking for certain material by certain authors and a certain demographic. So they want Aboriginal stories written by Aboriginal people. They want LGBTQ stories written by LGBTQ members. So, and they're specific about what they will take when. And I will tell you, I do not fit what they're asking for, at least not yet. So it's interesting. I didn't know that, man. Like, again, these are all things that I wrote a book. I wanted it out into the world. So yeah, those are kind of the big things that stand out for me in terms of lessons learned.
That's a great segue into talking about failure. I personally always think of failure as not the end of the road, but a start in a different choice on a different road. For the folks at home, can you conjure up an example of something that you gave it the old college try at, but it flopped. It did not work. You failed. What was that, and what did you learn from it? How did that failure affect your path?
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is a very real example. I wrote this thing, and I should call out my friend Sarah Walker, who did the illustrations. Like, she and I partnered on it. She did such fantastic work with this thing. Um, so I shouldn't just say this is me. Like, together we built this work, right? And then I start shopping it out to publishers, and I'm just getting shut down or not hearing anything. And so to me, that felt like failure. I felt like I had this goal twofold. I had a goal to put it out into the world, and I failed at doing that. Secondly, I now had this partner who did the illustrations, and I had committed to her I was going to put this thing out into the world, and I feel like I had failed her. And so, I could have just said, you know what, that's it. I gave it a shot, not going to happen. Or find that other route. Okay. I failed at this one attempt, this one path that I was going down. Well, there's plenty of other options for me. And so that's where I ended up going down the route of self-publication. And I'll be clear, when I did this, it wasn't about fame, fortune, becoming a best-selling novelist, hitting Oprah's book club. Like, I don't care about any of that. I cared about uh, committing to my own promise to say I'm going to publish a book one day. I cared about the commitment that I had made to my friend. And honestly, man, like, I cared about like doing this for my kids. It's like, I want my kids to see, like, you do whatever you put your mind to. And so that's where I went down the self-publication route, which, when you go that route, you're doing all the work. Yeah, they will get your book on shelves. Sorry, virtual shelves, not physical shelves. They'll get you barcodes, they'll do all the copywriting, they'll do all that for you. But any marketing, anything, anything outside of just getting a copy of your book available for people to buy is now on you. And so I had to decide, am I okay with that? And the answer is yes. So yeah, I failed at doing it the way I had hoped or envisioned. But through that, I think I even further realized the reason I was actually doing it. It wasn't for, like I say, New York Times bestseller. I don't care. I realized that's not what I care about. I cared about these other things. So that failure opened my eyes and let me follow a different path.
That brings up kind of an interesting thing in my mind. Like, and then this is my kind of thought that's going to form actual words in my brain momentarily and come out, I promise. uh, this kind of thought that I'm kind of sitting with right now is about adaptation to change and resilience. We think about authors as creators of, or historically anyway, we thought about authors as creative of these cultural products, these cultural works. They're artists, and kind of the system of patronage is very important to artists traditionally, because they create something, someone else takes it and then makes it into a thing. They scale it, they get it promotion, they get it out into the world, they get it being talked about. But that kind of reality has been, I would say, has been evaporating a little bit. And this is long before, like, chat GPT and AI and everything else. Like, when the internet really became a thing, and libraries and bookstores started to fade a little bit in mass market, mass media significance, authors started also transitioning from being artists into being artists plus businesses, which is a crazy thing to think about. And I'm sure that in that journey, like, you've run into stuff where it's like, okay, we have now our book listed on this marketplace where people can buy it. They've helped with the copyright. They've gotten the barcodes. They have the logistics infrastructure to get the book from A to B. But I'm responsible for everything else. So all of a sudden, you are an artist and a business person. where, like, kind of where in your journey did that smack you in the face and you realize, like, oh geez, I'm a business person, I need to market this thing too? And how did that change your approach to your work, or did it, like, did it fundamentally change anything with how you create your work, your cultural product?
Yeah, good question. It smacked me in the face when I found out I was going through self-publication and realized, wow, I actually have some work to do here. I'm not just passing this off to a publisher. Because the other thing I didn't mention actually with publishers, especially for children's books, picture books, they'll take your work, but they want to use their own artists. And I wasn't gonna go down that route. I had art already, loved it, created this with somebody else. Um, and so I wasn't willing to sacrifice that component of it. And so yeah, that's when it smacked me where I was like, okay, cool. I am responsible for making sure the books get printed. I am responsible for, um, any type of you name it, any type of marketing is on me. I'm responsible for setting up like a book signing or whatever I wanted to do. After having a barcode on a book is on my shoulders. So wasn't something I had thought I would have needed to do. And again, this isn't a full-time job for me. This is one step further than a hobby. It's a passion. And but at the same time, I don't have endless time to go out and do all these things. I've done craft or like book fairs and holiday markets and all kinds of different events like that. Eh, it's okay. You sell a few books, people are buying them as gifts, but that's not what's filling my cup. I'm like, again, that's not my driving reason behind wanting to write and put work into the world. I've got it in the bookstore downtown. If people want to buy it there, man, I am so happy to share that with anyone who wants it. But I'm just not that business person. That's not where I'm at. How it's influencing me, however, is so we're working on our second book. Sarah and I are partnering once again. We're just finalizing it right now. And I realized that so I'm not doing it in rhyme because of those lessons learned. Not necessarily because I want to take it to a publisher, though I'll probably still try. Um, but it's because why not make it accessible in other languages, regardless of it being through some publisher or not. And so, that's probably like one of the bigger things I guess has influenced me. Not that it's changing who I am as a writer, but it also, I think, is that just doing it a different way is forcing me to like flex a different part of my creative brain. So yeah, I don't know. Again, like if I get picked up by a publisher, we get picked up by a publisher and they want to do something big with it, cool. That's not my goal.
I never knew that, didn't even fathom for one second that if you went to a publisher with a children's book with both the written word and the illustration finished, it would be less appealing. Because in my mind, I would think, oh, great, the illustrations are done. That's less that we have to invest in the production of this. But that's not the case. So like your loyalty to your partner Sarah in bringing along on this journey closed some doors, but in some aspect it opened many other doors, and it really kind of I would say like almost clarified the path that you're going to walk and give you some focus on what you needed to do on that path. Is that kind of a fair statement, a fair assessment to make?
Yeah, oh, for sure. And I think, in whatever journey anyone's going on, you have to ask the why behind what you're doing it. And that's going to steer some of your decision making. I want to work on something with Sarah. We had this idea together for this next book. I'm not going to abandon that. Like it's too precious and valuable to me. So yeah, totally fair assessment.
Let's talk about motivation and influences. Over the course of your life, thinking about your creative journey or any part of your life journey in particular, are there any mentors, any books, any experiences you can think of that have been kind of particularly fundamental to where you're at today, and what about those has made them so central to what you think about them and where you're at?
So I mentioned earlier Dr. Seuss. As silly as that may sound, hugely influential. I like it's so fun. The artwork, the storytelling, actually having a message to share within the story. So from a kid's book perspective, definitely a Zeus fan. Um, the Little Prince or Le Petit Prince was also hugely influential for me. Just from what a kid's story is, it's like adult writing from a kid's point of view, and it's so eye-opening and inspirational. My kids for sure are an inspiration to me. Um, seeing seeing the world through their eyes, pretty inspiring. But I think like if I were to pick a singular book that has inspired me, it would be House of Leaves by Mark Danielewski. And I won't go into all the details of the book, but it was the most uniquely, creatively, differently written work of art that I had ever come across. It's one of the only books that I have read. It's like half a dozen times or more. It's hefty, but it opened my eyes to that medium of book writing could be something totally different. And it is mind bending and yeah, I've recommended this book to multiple people. I have yet to encounter someone who has thanked me for that recommendation because it's pretty wild. Uh, but man, like that just showed me that written language, written words, they don't have to be linear to be interesting. Yeah, fascinating book.
Is there, thinking about that book, is there like a nugget that you can pull out of that book and say, this inspired me? Was there any advice in there that you found particularly like, whoa?
So it was the experience of the book, in all honesty, and until you pick it up and look at it, it's hard to describe. But the book and the way that words are literally set on the page elicit a feeling in you. And there's like a section of the book, for example, where like this guy crawling through a tunnel, and on every page the words start to condense and get smaller, and so you're actually feeling that sense of him going through this tunnel. I'm doing a terrible job of describing it, but it's amazing. Yeah.
That's really interesting. When we were in secondary school, we were different secondary schools, but I remember I remember one of my teachers talking about Marshall McLuhan, like the medium is the message, right? And this seems to me like a bit of a visceral kind of expression of that. If you're trying to create a feeling with the way that the words on the page are kind of displayed to you or shown to you as the reader, like you're trying to accomplish something outside of the normal format, which is quite interesting. But I bet that he had some very, very interesting discussions with his publisher about actually doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like I say, I do recommend it. It's not for everybody. And I don't even want to explain to you what it is. You just got to pick it up and start reading. And it will hopefully start to make sense as you get into like the later pages. But yeah, so yeah, those are definitely inspirations. I honestly can't say there's a mentor that I could turn to be honest. At least not in written works. If I were to say anyone who kind of kickstarted the creative bug in me, it would have been my music teacher, grade 6, William Wilson. Definitely the one who let me know that there's a whole other side of this world that can be felt through music and creativity and art. So she has always been a voice in my head. Yeah. And again, was one probably the first to teach me that like you're going to go on stage, you're going to perform, you're going to play solo, and you're going to hit some wrong notes. You're the only one who's going to notice. Don't worry about it. Just go, be on stage, and have fun.
Especially in those recitals, right? Like the expectation is not that you're going to a symphony orchestra. So it's kind of a part of the experience.
Exactly.
Right?
Yep. Yep.
For folks who are listening at home and they've been maybe considering starting down the path that you've been on, creating cultural products, writing, expressing yourself and sharing that with the world. What would you want them to take away from your story? Is there any wisdom that you can kind of pass on to them as they're beginning a similar journey?
Yeah. So kind of like I was saying before, do it for you. Do it because it's what fills your cup. If you're, finding yourself sitting at a keyboard or sitting at picking up a guitar and you're really trying to force something out, because it's what you feel you have to do. I just say, like, maybe reconsider that and find the thing that fills your cup. That's for you. It's not about likes. It's not about the validation. It's about your own personal satisfaction and enjoyment that comes out of it. I think that is number one for me. Yeah, and then like, just do it. Like, easier said than done. I do understand that, but a lot of times, again, to go on the writing, it's like, I don't know where to start. Everything starts at the beginning. So just do that. Just start to write. It doesn't even have to make sense. Just put, whether it's a pen on paper or keyboard or whatever you're using, just start. Let it flow. Something's going to come there for sure. Just got to do it.
And everything flows from that. Just do it because it fills your cup. Everything will fall into place if you do that and do it well. And you will find that the road that you choose to walk down is one that will lead somewhere. Probably not where you expected, but that's okay.
Mm-hmm. That's how you discover new things.
It's very true. So, Phil, how can folks find you at home? Can they connect with you? They can buy your books on Indigo, Amazon. Where do they find your stuff? How do they get more Phil?
Yeah. So exactly like you just said, Indigo, Amazon chapters, it's all there. I'll share a link for my website. You can find all kinds of links and resources through there as well. Yeah, man, I publish every day, or sorry, every week, not every day. Be a little saturated. And then, yeah, we've got another book in the works coming very soon. So I'm excited to share that. Hopefully the next few months ish, maybe early next year. Yeah.
And I am super, super excited to see the finished fruit of that labor. For folks at home, that's all going to be in the show notes. We'll also put Sarah Walker's contact details or her website in the show notes so you can check out her illustrations. Phil Bean, loved having you on the show. Thanks very much for joining us today. And like I said, I am looking forward to that next book, man.
This was all right, man. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thanks for tuning in to The Journey in Conversation. If you liked this episode, follow or subscribe so you don't miss the next one. More builders, more breakthroughs, coming soon.